if this is going to make it into an episode or not. This is kind of more just for me. Get some shit out of my head and off my brain. Because, yeah, I'm not in a great headspace here lately. Like, at all. And it's not fun. So maybe this makes it onto the show. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe this just stays for me. I don't know. I don't know what this is going to end up being. Probably just a lot of me rambling to myself. Which I do on a daily basis anyway. Probably, because I'm a crazy person. So there's that. If you ever wanted to know. I'm a crazy person. At least I think I am. Today is Wednesday, July 22nd. I should be at work right now, or at the very least leaving work right now, but I'm not. I took a mental health day. I couldn't walk back in there today. I just couldn't do it. There's been a lot of horse shit going on a daily basis, and I know some of it is out of everybody's control. What with the pandemic going on, so people have to be out, so shit gets screwy. But I think after 8 years there, everything's just starting to get to me, to the point where I leave my job every day feeling worse about myself, even if it was a good day. And on really bad days, sometimes, especially if it was a good day, I'll leave feeling worse about myself. And that's just not the way you should feel at your job. But I can't just outright quit. I've got bills and a mortgage and got the dog and I got people who depend on me. I can't just up and quit and not do anything. I have to make a plan. And plans take time. And I'm not sure how much more time I can stand in there without completely losing it. Which is, of course, to say that I haven't completely lost it already, because I may have. I really don't know. Part of me thinks I have. I mean, it's... every little thing has the potential to either anger me or set me off on a really dark brain hole, if that makes any sense. There are times where I'll be watching TV or whatever, and even the slightest little bit of emotion inside an episode of something will make me fucking tear up. Which I don't understand why. I don't know. I don't know if there's some big mental break, like there's some wall going on that's trying to bust through. I don't know. But that's been happening for years. The other side of it is, here lately, I am just so quick to anger. Like, everything just pisses me off now. Every little thing is just annoying. And maybe that's age. Maybe that's something else going on in my brain. I don't know. I took this mental health day because I just couldn't walk back in that building today. I couldn't do it. And while staying at home and not peopling for the day has been great and kind of nice, it's also, kind of lonely. But at least if I'm alone, there's no chance of me, popping off on somebody for no reason, or shit getting to me for no reason. There's no chance of me, quote unquote, making a scene. Maybe that's what the problem is. Maybe even at 31, I'm still too concerned about what other people think, maybe. You know, when you're younger, and I'm talking like, early high school younger, that kind of younger. When you're younger, you, for the most part, have like a core group, right? Like that's your group, that's your ride or die group, right? Not me. I didn't have one of those. I bounced between a few that I was accepted in, but I didn't really have that one core like group of 3 or 4 people all the time. I would have one for, a couple months at a time, and then shit would happen or people would have fallings out, and I'd end up bouncing around to the 3 or 4 others I was in. And in my adult life, I've recently come to realize that my circle of friends is less than a handful. Some that I know I can count on to listen no matter what. Some that I don't talk to about certain things because when I do, the answers or the conversation doesn't help me. It just reinforces them. If I'm talking to you about a problem I'm having, I would hope that you would be able to, help me work through my problem, not make it about you being right about my problem. And that's not just one person. That's a few people that do that. And it kind of grates on me, So I don't know if there's something legitimately wrong. I will say that mental disease does have a chance of running in my mother's side of the family, so it's entirely possible that I've actually got some like real brain shit going on. But that would require going to a professional that I can't afford. So that's a plus. That's a thing that happens. And what's supposed to be the greatest country in the world, when I'm worried about my mental health, my first thought has to be, well, I can't do it because I can't afford it. It's not the problem, but it is certainly a symptom of the problem. It's a symptom of a lot of problems, not just with this country, but in this day and age and in the mindset that we've all been told to have. It's not right. It shouldn't be that way. If I'm in fear for my mental health, I should be able to call up a therapist, schedule an appointment, and maybe pay a small copay, but not be worried about, $150, $200 an hour charge. I feel like I'm paying a lawyer instead of a therapist. I don't need to litigate my brain. Well, at least I hope I don't need to litigate my brain. I have trouble sleeping at night because my brain never turns off. Because I'm always constantly thinking about shit, whether it's meaningless, mindless shit, or shit going on in my day-to-day life, or existential shit, or everything going on in the world right now. My brain it doesn't like shutting off at the end of the day. I basically have to drown it out. I usually throw something up on the TV, something, either I'm only half interested in or something I've seen 100 times before, just to drown my brain out so I have something else to pay attention to. Because if I paid attention to my brain all night, I'd probably never sleep. And I'd probably go insane a hell of a lot faster. I'd be curious if this did make it into an episode of the show, what some of the comments might be on this one. I'm sure half of them will be like, "Pussy, you need to man up. Quit whining and bitching." And the other half will be platitudes. And there is no in between. It's what I'm used to. That's what it'll be. It'll be man up or platitudes. Nothing divinely helpful. That's what I'm expecting. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying that in my brain, that's what my brain expects to happen. That's what my life and my experiences have taught me. Is as much as I would like to say I can count on people, at the end of the day, can I? I don't know anymore. I don't know that I can count on anything, to be honest. And if anyone else does end up listening to this, I know what you might be thinking. That this sounds really down and you're kind of scared for me. You're afraid I might do something stupid. Well, there's a reason they call it doing something stupid, because it's stupid. Now, that's not to say that some people, when they do that quote-unquote something stupid, that they don't believe at that moment that it's their only choice. Of course they do. And while I don't agree with the solution, I can respect feeling that way, because there have been quite a few points in my life that I've felt that way. This isn't one of them. I'm just brain tired and kind of down. I could never do that, though. Ever. If this is an episode, then for anyone listening, you remember back in our mental health episode, I talked about why. I talked about the promise that I made to a very dear friend. And I had her listen to that episode. And I think that's the first time she ever heard those words out loud, that I'd made that silent promise. And her response to that was very gratifying. It made me feel like that promise has been worth it. So, no, to answer the unasked question, don't worry. I'm not offing myself. Because if I fail, then it's a crime, which is stupid. Yeah, because that makes sense. If you fail at offing yourself, it's a crime that you can go to jail for, instead of being put somewhere where you need help. Unless, of course, you fake it just for the attention because you're a controlling asshat. Then you get put somewhere where theoretically you're getting the help you need. Not that I'm talking about anybody in particular I know or anything. We talk about a lot of things on the podcast, and there's also a lot of things that we can't talk about, that we're not supposed to talk about, that we shouldn't talk about, that we're convinced you don't want to hear about, or that society has deemed not appropriate to talk about. To some extent, I agree with some of those things, and to some extent, I want to say, fuck you. I shouldn't have to feel like there's some things I can't talk about, but it's pretty much how it's always been. There's always those one or two things that, I don't feel like I can talk about. Like, I feel like I'm not supposed to talk about the racist, scientifically illiterate people that I work with. And that's not to say all of them are those things. They're most certainly not. There are some people who don't realize that they're those things. And when you attempt to nudge them to take a closer look at their inner psyche, they lash out. That does a lot for my mental health too. here I am trying to help you realize a part of yourself that is kind of obvious to other people. And the second I make you take a look in the mirror, you lash out. Sad. I don't know. I really don't even know why I'm recording this. I just got the idea, if I'm going to sit here and be in my own head, I might as well vocalize it and record it and see what comes out of it. I mean, I've been going for, almost 16 minutes now of pure fucking rambling. So I'm sure this will be real interesting for somebody to listen to. You skip over this episode, no one's going to blame you. Who wants to listen to the ramblings of a random, slightly down 31-year-old white guy anyway? What problems could I have, right? Yeah. What problems could I possibly have? Don't get me wrong. I know that there are bigger problems in the world and for other people that I know even, than the shit I've got going on in my head. I'm 100% aware of that. Just as selfish as it sounds, and I'm sorry for this, sometimes it doesn't feel that way. Sometimes I feel like all I do is reach out and help and help and help, and very rarely does anyone go, hey, stop. Are you good? Like, let some shit out, please. And there's one or two people who will, and they know who they are. And if you know who you are, then thank you. But the other part of me doesn't want to constantly unload on those people. Because it doesn't seem fair, right? Like, they shouldn't have to deal with and hear my shit all the time just because I have no one else. Oh, I mean, I could talk to my secret girlfriend about it. She's only a secret because of things going on in her life, but she's got things going on in her life that far outweigh what's going on in mine. I can't stress or burden her with my shit. It's not right. And I know she'd tell me, you can tell me anything, and I know I can, but my brain wants to say, no, you've got more important things to deal with right now. You don't need to worry about my headspace. You need to worry about your own headspace and what's going on with your life, because it's definitely not minimal. That's for sure. I guess part of me thought that I'd be at a different place than I am in my life right now. Like a vastly different place. And I'm not. And some of it's circumstance and some of it's me. I'm not sure which percentage is higher, to be honest with you. Or maybe I just don't want to admit which percentage is higher. My body hurts all the fucking time. And there's very little I can do about it. I dropped a whole bunch of weight last year. I've already put some of it back on. I caught it quick enough where I'm able to maintain it. I'm not too skinny anymore, as some people were calling me, but I'm definitely nowhere near where I was. I was at 220. I dropped down to mid to low 160s. I hover between the low 180s and the high 170s now. And you know what? I'm okay with that. It's not perfect, but it's manageable. And I can eat things that make me happy on occasion instead of, practically fucking starving myself sometimes. Not to mention it's cheaper. Yeah, because in this country, it's cheaper to eat like shit than it is to eat healthy. That's fucking ridiculous. There's lots of things that are ridiculous, though. We just put up with them. We put up with them because we're told to put up with them. We put up with them because the last 18 generations have put up with them, so we should have to too, right? Wrong. Shouldn't be that way. But enough people keep perpetuating that myth and that stereotype that we have to keep putting up with it. And I hate it. I truly hate it. Sounds like I got a thunderstorm rolling in behind me. Maybe I'll go sit outside and watch the storm here in a little bit. That's always nice and relaxing. Till it makes my head explode, because apparently I'm a weird person and pressure changes give me really bad headaches. There's a fun fact you didn't know. I'm recording this sitting at the desk and the microphone with only the light of my monitors on. And I get told all the time, well, you need more light. You need more light. No, I don't. I prefer being in the dark. A, it saves energy. B, I prefer the dark. If I don't need the light, I don't need the light. Sunlight's different. I don't mind sunlight one bit, but harsh lights like this, they irritate me, especially when they're not necessary. And that just goes back to every little thing irritating me. And I do mean every little thing irritates me. I feel like what few accomplishments I have are mediocre at best. I write and record my own music, and while I think sometimes, hey, this is actually a pretty cool little track, after a couple times of listening to it, I was like, no, this is mediocre. And no matter how much I try to make it better, there's some threshold I can't get past. While we were on quarantine, I got some gear to start a new hobby, which involved me being outside and at night and doing something I love, which is, stargazing. But because of the weather and because of my work schedule, I haven't had the time to go out and take photographs at night. And the ones I have taken were terrible. Even though I did all the research, I knew what I was doing right, just something else I do that's mediocre. I love doing the show. I enjoy doing episodes of the show. We've gotten to talk to some really cool people. We've had some really good conversations. Show's not tracking quite as well as I'd hoped it would. I thought I had people that would be interested in hearing it, and a lot of those people haven't. My own mother had to ask me what the information was to get a hold of the show, which tells me she's never bothered to listen to it. That kind of sucked. I mean, podcasts aren't really her thing, but, your son's doing something, you'd think you'd want to pay attention. And I don't blame her, per se. Just, kind of stung a bit, On the other side of that, there's people listening to this that I never would have imagined would have. I get messages from people sometimes like, hey, I just listened to the newest episode. And they're usually people that I'm either acquaintance with or acquaintances of acquaintances, so I know of them. Hey, I just listened to the latest episode. It really made me think about X, Y, and Z, so thank you. Those make me feel good, but we've been doing this now we've been recording episodes for almost a year. We've been releasing them for about 7 months. And I might have had 3 or 4 of those messages. Maybe. People tell me they listen to the show to fall asleep at night. That's kind of a mixed bag of feelings there. Like, thanks for listening, but are we that boring that you use us to fall asleep to? Or is that just the only time you can listen? Or is it that you don't want anyone to know that you're listening? Now, I know that last one's irrational, but yes, that is a thought in my head. Because my brain is full of irrational thoughts all the time. Been that way for a while. My head being full of irrational thoughts that make no sense, which has sometimes led to some really stupid choices. Not anything too dangerous. Maybe one or two things, but those were in the past. But those thoughts creep into my head, and sometimes I just can't get them out. No matter what I do, I can't satiate those thoughts. Wish I could. Don't know how. And part of me worries who I'd be if those thoughts went away. If the constant overthinking, overanalyzing, logicaling, it's not a word, but whatever, over-logicaling things went away, who would I be after that? What's left? Would there be anything left? Is there anything beyond that? I don't know. A little scary, isn't it? So, yay. Rambling to myself about myself because I'm in my fucking feels. You won't believe how many times I've heard, "Oh man, just get out of your feels, dude. Shut up and get out of your feels." Like I'm not allowed to feel things, or I shouldn't be feeling things, or I shouldn't be thinking of anything other than positive thoughts. And I'm sorry, that's just not the way the world actually works. You don't expect it from guys. You don't want it from guys. You expect it from women, right? That's the stereotype. And the stereotype needs to go away. That stereotype needs to change. And then, of course, on top of all of my own personal bullshit, we have everything going on in the world right now. Specifically, all the horse shit going on in America right now. And I'll be honest with you, it terrifies me. It terrifies me for the present, for people I know who could be in serious danger. And it terrifies me for the future, that if things keep going south, that me and people like me could be in danger. When I mean people like me, I mean people of non-Christian backgrounds. Now, I'm an atheist, but to some people that doesn't mean anything. I put up a status yesterday that enraged some people. And all I said was, the president is a racist and a fascist. And if you support him, you are also a racist and a fascist. Or at the very least, you condone those things through inaction. So in essence, what I'm saying is, you might not be a racist, but you're okay with it if you continue to support this man. You might not be a fascist, but you're okay with it if you continue to support this man. And the arguments that came out were some of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Someone decided to argue by saying, well, here's something racist Biden said. I never once mentioned Biden at all. To be perfectly honest, I don't really like him either. But I like him a hell of a lot more than I like Donnie Dumbass. At least if Biden's elected, I don't feel like I have to worry about Gestapo in the streets like we have right now in Portland, like Donnie Dumbass is trying to put in the streets of Chicago. That's what scares me. Secret police with no identification, hauling people off, or as they want to call it, proactively arresting people for crimes they haven't and may well not do. That's terrifying. It's terrifying that the man is almost to the letter following the 14 points of fascism, and no one's waking up and go, wait a minute, didn't we fight a world war to end this? Why are we allowing it on our own soil? A lot of it has to do with the older generation. Sorry, older generation. It's the truth. You guys had it great for a while. Things were awesome. And then you bred out a whole nother generation. A generation that was willing to ask questions. A generation that was wondering why certain things the way they are, instead of just accepting them for the way they are. And you basically wanted that generation to stay in their lane. And most of them did. Not all. And then that generation spawned another generation that asked more questions and wanted more direct answers and cried out about the injustices going on in the world. And that's kind of where we are now. Because you wanted the status quo so badly, or what you thought was the status quo. You quelled dissent, you quelled questions, and here's where we are now. Secret police in the streets of some of our biggest cities. Protesting that's gone on for months with no end in sight in the middle of a global pandemic, which, by the way, we're failing at. The rest of the world's on the mend. We're getting worse because for some reason, disease is a political issue instead of a health issue. And it bothers me. And it scares me that people who are historically and scientifically illiterate are the ones in power. And if it doesn't scare you, it should. It should. If the idea of armed federal officers from the Department of Homeland Security whisking people away into unmarked minivans, of all things, just because they happen to be speaking out, doesn't scare you, you don't know your history very well, and it shows. That may not be your fault. Could be the product of your school system, or your private school, or what have you. There's a saying that my dad always used to like to tell me. It's that history is written by the winners, which also boils down to history tends to get sanitized. What we learned, my generation at least, what we learned in school was heavily sanitized. And at 31, I'm just learning that. And that's terrifying. Let's see, we're a little more than a month out from Juneteenth. I'd never heard of it before. Until that week, I had never heard of it before. Why? Why wasn't that in my history books? That seems pretty important. But they left that tidbit out. Why? Why was that left out of our history books? Why are so many details omitted? You can't just tell part of the truth. You have to tell the whole truth. That's what we're always taught growing up, right? You have to tell the whole truth. Not just the parts that you want to tell, not just the parts that work for you. Unfortunately, you have too many people only talking about the parts of history and the parts of science that work for them. The science part's another part that bugs me. Because, again, if this turns into an episode, who knows if it will or not. As some of you have heard, I'm pretty passionate about the sciences. Lots of science. All kinds of different science. And I saw a post the other day that made me realize something pretty kind of profound that I'm not sure a lot of people realize. This global pandemic, human malware, as I've joked about calling it before, is the first time a lot of people outside of schools have watched the scientific method live and in action. So when the first theories came out about the disease, and it turns out that those theories were incorrect, all of a sudden, well, the doctors are wrong about everything. No. Stop. Sorry. It's not how that works. They were wrong the first time. Okay. Guess we have to try a new idea now. Let's see if we're right about this idea. That's how science works. You test an idea, find out if it's true or not. If it's not, okay, guess we need a new idea to explain this. Let's test a new idea and a new idea until we find one that sticks and works. That's how the scientific method works. And then we have people check our work to make sure we did everything right. And a lot of people are watching that play out in real time for the first time in their lives. And they don't understand it. And that's scary. You know, for a generation that grew up on Reading Rainbow and Bill Nye the Science Guy, we produced a lot of fucking idiots. Didn't we? That's sad. Miss Frizzle would be ashamed at all of us right now. I'm sure LeVar Burton is actually ashamed of all of us right now. Same thing with Bill Nye. It amazes me that with all the huge push for the educational programming of the 90s, that my generation has some of the dumbest people in it. You wouldn't believe the kind of talk I hear on a day-to-day basis that just makes my brain hurt. Which, of course, rolls back into my brain. Should it stress me out that much? Maybe not. Does it? Yeah, you bet your ass it does. Because people that think like that are the people that are going to be in power in a few years. That's a problem. That's scary. That's not the way things ought to be. It's just not. You need people who are literate in science, literate in history, literate in the way the world works and the way the world should work. Everyone's always like, oh, well, you know, America's great. America's so great. We don't need to change it. It's been this way for so long. We can't change it. Nothing can change. We can't change it. The system's great. Did you ever stop to think about the fact that we're one of the youngest countries on the planet? Not the youngest, but one of the youngest countries on the planet. Compared to powers like France, Britain, Spain, Russia, we're a young nation. We can absolutely still change things. Problem is, we've been told our whole lives that, no, we can't. This is the system we have. You have to work within it. The system doesn't work anymore. It did for a time, to a certain extent. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work for too many people. The system needs to change. And those thoughts in my head constantly stress me out and make me wonder about the future. That the people that are in power don't think and don't feel like I do. So how is that going to affect my future? Am I going to have any semblance of a future because of that? I don't know. I like to consider myself a relatively smart guy. I'm not a genius by any standards, but relatively smart, rationally thinking guy. And yet, in this day and age, I feel like an outsider because of that. Anyone want to explain that? Because I can't. I shouldn't have to. Neither should you. Ooh, 40 minutes. What do you know? Maybe this will be an episode. What would I call it if it was? The ramblings of an incoherent metalhead? Nah. I think I'd just call it incoherent ramblings. Because someone's going to listen to this and go, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Other people are going to listen to it and go, you're a fucking moron. Maybe there will be one or two that listen and go, damn, is he okay? Damn, he's got some points. Damn, maybe I need to start thinking about the world that I live in. Start thinking about the future and not just the now. It's a crazy time that we live in. Not something that could have been foreseen back in the 80s when I was born. At least not completely foreseen. Some of these things were absolutely able to be foreseen and people did nothing about it. But what can you expect? Almost makes me want to put down social media for a while to escape the daily bombardment, but I don't, because it's how I let people know that there's new episodes, first of all. It's how I find out about things going on and then fact check it through other sources. It's how I stay in contact with some people. Some people I've known in person that now I only get to see what's going on in their lives through social media, and then me. That's a sad state of humanity, isn't it? Guess maybe we have lost the ability to communicate effectively. We've lost a lot of things. We've lost the ability to care. We've lost the ability to empathize. We've lost too much. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm out of breath. I finally got all these thoughts out of my head. Maybe I'll stop the recording now. Maybe you stopped listening to it a while ago. Who knows? I don't know what happens when people hear my voice. I don't know what happens when they click on a link for the show, how long they actually listen. Do I wish it was doing better? Yeah, I do. But I'm also realistic. I'm a nobody from nowhere putting my voice out into the world. Who's going to listen to that? And believe me, that's not the thing that gets to me the most. It's not fun, but the show not performing as well as I would hope it would is not the thing that gets to me the most. It's everything else that I've talked about. It's everything that happens on a day-to-day basis. It's the way my brain never seems to shut off. Every little thing is going to send me one emotional direction or the other. It's a little scary. Especially knowing the kind of things that genetically run in my family. Terrifies me. Terrifies me that I'm not the only one that thinks and feels this way and can't do anything about it because of circumstance. The world's scary. I'm scary. I'm scared. Eventually, I hope that everything will be okay, but I'm also a realist. At this point, for me, World War III isn't an if, it's a when, and it's a how bad. It's a how many of us survive the other side. Is it the threshold that keeps us from ever becoming a galactic civilization? Is that what it ends up being? Is that what potentially other civilizations went through? They hit that threshold of their versions of World War III and never survived it because we have weapons that can kill so quickly and efficiently and on such a large scale. We're at a crux, a turning point, a defining point in humanity, and how we pivot over the next few months and year is crucial. But I'm probably one of the few who thinks that. So yeah, I think I'll go ahead and stop this. It's almost 50 minutes long. I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording. Maybe go outside, watch the storm for a little bit, contemplate my navel. Did feel kind of nice to get all this out, even if it was just to my microphone. You have a good night.